Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Web3 and Chill. I am Aayush, joined with my co host, Vishal. And today we have a very interesting guest, Nova, who's an award winning fashion designer and author, chief metaverse officer, and one of the top 25 leaders in Web3. Hi, Nova. Welcome to our podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Likewise. So, why Web3? Why did you get into the space?
Why? That's a loaded question. Why web?
Why do you think I asked this in the first place?
Wow. So, I will say Web3 for me is a basket of a variety of emerging technologies, which include blockchain. It includes AI, augmented reality, virtual reality, aka XR, if you're looking at both of those. And so I think it's an amalgamation of those. And if I was going to say why Web3, I'll have to go back to my origin story.
Please
And
do.
so it started back in 2013. I'm the founder of Raine Magazine. Raine, for the last 15 years, has been focusing and featuring the rising talents within fashion, culture, and technology. So the future of. And so being in that future of space, fell into Bitcoin as a story that we decided to cover back in 2013. And the more I learned about it, I was actually convinced to start mining Bitcoin. I just thought it was so cool. And the research I was doing on it was fascinating. And that didn't pan out because I would be probably on the beach side of Jamaica, where I was born right now. So, but it's all good. And that led me to discovering Ethereum a few years later, investing in that blockchain, and then a couple of years later started day trading crypto as a way of learning about what these future technologies are. And understanding blockchain as the base and cryptocurrency as a use case, and looking at these variety of companies and the use cases and utility in which they were attaching coins and tokens to, right? So the more useful the technology, and the deeper and broader the ecosystem, the more valuable the coin or token associated with that. So that gave me a breath of really seeing what's coming as it relates to this new paradigm shift that we're in, and what's going to become and is becoming the foundation of new economies, and how we're going to be interacting with each other in a very different way in the years to come. So that's how I fell into Web3. It was initially a personal endeavor that expanded once I discovered it as a story for Raine Magazine. But then the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. And I got really excited about the aspect of tokenization and couture, which I call the fine art of fashion, and what that can do around bringing more awareness to the artisans and craftsmen that's creating these beautiful garments, and how those artisans are usually carrying on a legacy of their family and sustaining their family with what they love to do, and pass it on through these works of art, and what that could look like from a tokenization standpoint. And then that carried me into the world of DAOs, and then NFTs, and building my own NFT project, and then into the metaverse, and then fast forward into AI and generative AI. So, as a futurist, as someone that's paying attention to what's coming down the pike, not only as the editor-in-chief of Raine Magazine, but as a personal of interest of mine, I like staying at the edge of what's coming and how we can look at what we've learned from the past to create the best present moment experience.
So, what's coming next in the world of NFTs? What's going to happen now?
Well, let me look into my crystal ball. No, let's say, I would say I'm excited about what's coming for NFTs, because art, and we see this happening now with AI and generative AI, art tends to put a face, a personal face on technology.
Yeah.
It allows the abstract to become more tangible, and for us to better connect with something that's potentially very functional. And so the digital art space grew around NFTs to bring more awareness in a way where most people can understand it, because most people understand what art is, and art is transformational. And so that was just a use case. And what I see with NFTs is that word fading away outside of that immediate core community around NFT art, and being used in a way that incorporates more common terms, such as digital assets, virtual assets, smart contracts, digital automated contracts. So bringing it back to semantics that most of us understand to increase its adoption. And we're going to see more use cases. We're seeing it around real estate, where you are eliminating that burden of paperwork as it relates to purchasing a home. We're going to see that around other assets. So when you think about a contract and what contracts are used for, in the near future, those contracts are going to be smart contracts that are triggered and saved on the blockchain, triggered through the blockchain, traveling through the blockchain in terms of the capturing the data around that contract. And so where are contracts? They're in marriages, they're in real estate, they're in an employee, employee to employer agreements. We're looking when we, as a creator, a lot of times we're collaborating. We're going to see these NFTs or these smart contracts be embedded within these collaborations and co-creation. So as a musician, the NFT may split off and pay the producer, the songwriter, the singer, maybe the person that's renting out the studio, and that's all automated and programmed within that quote unquote NFT. So I think the future of NFTs include a broader understanding and a broader reach and more use cases beyond what we saw arise just about a year or two ago around the digital art scene.
And this is one question that we have asked a lot of our guests, speculative one. How do you think, or what do you think will trigger the mass adoption of the NFT concept?
Well, one, getting rid of the word NFT as a word that's circulating around, because it doesn't have, outside of the Web3 community, it doesn't have a meaning. It's an acronym. And so when you boil it down to explain it to a third grader, and the third grader, think about your most popular cereal or orange juice or yogurt or fruit. It's word of mouth, right? Did you try this? Or your most popular movie? I remember The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that movie years ago. Word of mouth made it, be an Oscar contender. But it started off as an independent film and it was released in limited theaters. And then that it was so good, one person told another and told another and told another. And when you get to that mass awareness, then you're able to get the attention outside of the normal channels of being nominated for an Oscar. And so when we think about bringing it down to a level where most people can understand it, there's an emotional connection. They understand the impact and the value, and then they can now figure out, well, what can I apply this to? What else can I apply it to? And so I think you're going to see that being, when that hurdle is removed, you're going to see more mass adoption. Also, use cases are very helpful. And we saw it starting with people with that $69 million painting. Who doesn't want to sell a painting for 8 figures, 9 figures? What was it? 7 figures? And so who doesn't want to sell a painting for that much money? It empowered artists, it inspired artists, because the term starving artist is such a norm for us and accepted in our culture. And then, oh, wow, you can earn revenue from your art that can sustain you and your family. That's inspiring. So when we see more use cases that affect an individual's bottom line, their lifestyle, their livelihood, their family's livelihood, you're going to also see increased adoption.
Got it, got it. That's quite exciting. Maybe slightly changing the topic. We all know House of Cards. We know House of Dragon. We also know House of Gucci. Now, what is House of Nova?
Oh, I love it. I love it. House of Nova is the future of couture. So if Gabrielle Coco Chanel was to launch her house today with all these wonderful tools as an innovator and as a risk taker and a rule breaker in her space, what would she do? And so the House of Nova was born through an accelerated program I did with NASA and the Virginia Tech Science and Research Park, taking the couple of decades of experience I have in the fashion industry, bringing it together with my knowledge of Web3 and looking at what can I do to embody physical and digital fashion together with the blockchain, together with AI, together with 3D and or augmented reality. So when we take the basket of tools that I had mentioned earlier in the conversation, and you bring it together in this beautiful medium called fashion, which is the ultimate form of self-expression without words. When we step out in our avatar or in real life, we're wearing something. And if it's beads, if it's leaves, if it's a printed dress coat, if it's a sweatsuit, it is telling a story. And it's reflecting how we feel on the inside and how we want the world to perceive us as well. But it also impacts the story that the world gives back to us. And when we can take this power of communication and expand that with these tools that I mentioned of Web3, you have something very powerful. So I want to continue to inspire, empower, and educate through the House of Nova, creating the fine art of fashion, couture, and bringing that to a global community in a digital way that also translates back into the physical. So think of this new model of circularity. So what is House of Nova? The future of couture.
Great, great. That's very inspiring. I'm looking forward to it. Since you are also very close to the world of metaverse fashion or physical fashion, what do you think? What is the key motivator today for a consumer to opt for a physical fashion? Why they want it today?
Digital over physical?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's interesting when we look at the history of digital fashion and how it started rising in its um, I wouldn't say popularity, but the curiosity of it and the intrigue and how it was helping fuel the metaverse and use cases within the metaverse is fascinating. But when you bring that to the lay consumer, and one of the, I would say, motivations of using digital fashion was around sustainability. We saw the rise of fast fashion being only increased due to social media platforms such as Instagram and Pinterest, and anywhere where you are able to take a selfie and show off what you're wearing. But now that you're putting yourself out there to this community, how often are you going to want to wear the same thing? And that's created a dilemma with the reuse of fashion. And so fast fashion, which was already on the scene, had a new reason to exist and grow in prominence. And so one of the reasons that digital fashion was proposed as a way of being sustainable is that these individuals and influencers can now dress with digital fashion as opposed to physical fashion, and therefore decrease the amount of waste of clothing that's only worn once or meant to only be worn once. However, once the tools were introduced, beyond curiosity, beyond the diehard early adopters, beyond collectibles, the question stands, is it really and truly impacting sustainability? And so what we see is digital fashion in combination with physical fashion is where the power is, where digital fashion can drive trends, allow companies, independent designers, brands to do forecasting, to also build on an omni-channel strategy and introduce a new revenue stream where it's a digital collection only, and where when you bring in NFTs, you now can create these communities and clubs around these potential collectibles, and maybe one or two of the 10 is now translated into a physical garment, and you're one of the few that owns the physical garment. And so when you're bringing it together with these other tools of Web3, and you're weaving it into a broader story of functionality, you're going to see digital fashion, the adoption of it to the masses outside of Web3 increase 100-fold. Also, if you look at the gamification around digital fashion, and let's look at Barbie as one of the most branded
yeah.
dolls out there. And I grew up with a game, I'm going to date myself, called Fashion Plates, where you can mix and match with these digital plates of clothes, and you put a piece of paper over it and you color it, and you have this outfit that you designed or styled, at least, right? And so imagine the lay consumer being able to do this with digital fashion. We saw the rise in popularity of Sims and, similar games where young girls especially would like to go and play, and young women will still go in and play, and probably some adult women are still playing dress up in house with these digital avatars and items. Well, when we look at digital fashion as part of a gaming story, where it's more accessible, just like generative AI or AI, let's just say AI became more accessible through generative and open AI, such as your chat GPTs and your Dollies of the world, your Midjourneys of the world. What if we allow digital fashion to be more accessible, where individuals are able to create and or style their own outfits on digital avatars? And now you have this whole new world and economy that's built around digital fashion. But then when you bring it into the physical supply chain, you're actually truly impacting sustainability because you're now using it for personalization, on demand production, trend forecasting, and you're only creating what the consumer really wants. And you're testing that initially through digital fashion.
Got it. Got it. That's very exciting. I have one question out of curiosity. Do you see any big brand going into the space where they're allowing contributors through an NFT to design their own design? Let's say Gucci or someone like that who is in the luxury space, allowing people to design a very custom made design, and then basis the sales of that particular design, they're sharing some of the share of revenue back to them. Is it there a possibility of happening something like this? Not maybe Gucci, but somewhere someone doing this.
Oh, okay. I love that example, by the way. And is there a possibility of that happening? Yes. Is there a use case right now that's on my radar in the way you described it? No. I think there's elements of that where individuals are able to look at a digital collection and vote on their favorite, and the favorite get made. And or if you're part of a community, you get introduced to exclusive collection and you're the first ones to see, collect, and or possibly the only ones to own those items, and they may not exist in the physical, and some may translate into the physical. But to allow the participation of revenue share, I think is very powerful. And I think that's one of the reasons why we saw the fuel, the fuel of digital art around NFTs grow so quickly, because the narrative of the revenue stream post first sale, and where now me as the owner purchaser of the art from the artist, I can choose to sell it to my neighbor and now earn revenue off of this art as well. And a percentage of that goes back to the original creator. That's empowering. And so we bring that model into the fashion world. It's going to be really interesting. And I do see that coming into play more and more, because Web3 is not only about the tools, but it's also about ownership. It's about access. It's about sovereignty, rewarding creators, and then being a part of the journey of the creator. So think about our old fan clubs of the past, where individuals were able to create their own fan club and grow a community underneath this artist and get rewarded for those perks because they developed this community, this fan club. Well, when we think about that in the Web3 version, what will that look like when you bring that into the fashion space? And so, yes, I think the consumers that are delivering a bigger community to the brand, and or are some of your biggest repeat customers, and or are identifying the new trends of your collection and your best sellers, they should be rewarded. And so I think that with the access of smart contracts and the understanding, when we going back to that first question in the podcast, how do we increase the adoption of NFTs? And through education and understanding, you're going to have a more educated consumer that's going to start demanding these things and looking for these opportunities as they choose the brands of the future.
Got it. Got it. No, that's very exciting. Yeah, you go ahead.
How do you think that small designers, indie designers who own their own label, can use Web3 or NFTs to grow their businesses?
Oh, I love that. How independent designers can use Web3. Oh, there's so many layers to that. So let's just start with being able to increase your team without increasing your team in terms of cost. And so being more efficient, using these tools to be more efficient, I think that's one thing. Web3 is about collaboration and co-creation. And sometimes the right strategic partners are better than a venture capitalist, because you're able to continue to maintain control over your original idea and intent and bring it to life in a way where you're not exchanging capital, you're exchanging services, you're exchanging value, you're building and sharing communities. And so in an environment that encourages collaboration and co-creation, independent designers can flourish more easily. Now let's look at smart contracts and blockchain, where this facilitates a direct to consumer relationship more easily, and where Web3 is built on the principle of community first, in terms of delivering a product where create that demand, create that loyalty, and introduce things of value to that community that's looking for it, that audience that's looking for it, as opposed to coercing an audience after a product is put into the market through bombarding them with repeat messages. And so when we're looking at this community first concept, anyone can grow a community, and it doesn't have to be a community of 1 million. Micro influencers are sought after because those communities are more engaging, they convert higher, and they're more loyal than what I would say the celebrity, for example, with millions and millions of fans. Micro influencers are taking the advice from these individuals that they believe in, that they follow, that they've trusted. And so as an independent designer or an artist, you can create a community of 50, of 100, of 500, of 5,000. That's up to you. But what you have, though, are individuals that are coming to you time and time again for something they're trusting you for. And may that be for knowledge, may that be for an item that's going to allow them to look good, may that be for an experience, may that be for an exclusive object or product. They're coming to you for something, and then you're able to now convert that community into sales. So I just share one quick example how this can be applied to fashion. So if a designer grew a community of 500 loyal fans, members, followers, and each month the designer introduced a new garment to that community, just one garment, and sold that garment at $10, just $10, not $10. Yeah, let's say $10. And half of that community purchased. That's $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
And if you double that number to 20, that's $5,000 a month. And if you triple that number to $30 a garment, which I'm not sure what that garment would be for $30, but let's just say it's $300. You've multiplied your returns with that very loyal community. So what we've been sold, I would say as independent artists and designers, that we need to compete with the Coca-Colas and the Gucci's and the Louis Vuittons of the world and have hundreds of thousands and or millions in our community. And that's not the case, especially with using tools such as smart contracts, blockchain, and NFTs, where you have a small micro community that's loyal. You can build a sustainable business, a financially sustainable business. And I think that's very powerful. I can go on and on. There's so many ways.
Please go.
I'm looking at generative AI and tools such as Midjourney, Dolly, OpenAI, Bloom, Skybox. There are so many, and there's new ones introduced every day, where you can create marketing campaigns, marketing collateral at a fraction of a cost. And sometimes that was the one limiting factor of growing or launching your brand. If you didn't have the ability to fund a chief marketing officer or a graphic designer or branding advisor, what would you do? Maybe you're making mistakes. Maybe you're burning through the cash flow that your parents and family invested in you. So now you could use these tools to be more efficient in creating collateral around your business that can better tell your story, where you now can raise enough money through sales to then hire on that chief marketing officer, that branding advisor, because I believe the capital of knowledge you can't always replace, and the experience you can't always replace, that what that individual brings to the table. But what these tools can do is give you a little bit of a ramp and a head start in launching and growing your business.
Wow, that's crazy. Vishal, you wanted to go.
No, I think it's a very exciting space to be and the way it is evolving. I slightly want to change the direction of the topic. I also explored, or I also discovered that you run this amazing initiative called the Link Kangaroo. So you would love to know more about that and what's the story behind that.
Oh, which initiative is that?
The Link Kangaroo, the Link Kangaroo.
Oh, Pink
Yeah,
Kangaroo.
Link Kangaroo. So yeah, I would love to understand more. What is the story behind that?
Yes, so Pink Kangaroo. So funny story of the origin of Pink Kangaroo is, at least the origin of the name is, I had a dream that I owned this big tech company. This was years ago. And the name was Pink Kangaroo. Like, it was just something that was like in a dream. And some months after that dream, I decided that I wanted to launch a podcast network. This was a few years ago. And I was going through different names, some really cool names, because I love naming products and coming up with brand names. And then the term community came up in the conversation I was having with my sons at the time. And then I was like, what is this podcast community? And then I said, it's a community of wild thinkers. That's what it is. It's individuals that are thinking outside the box, that are all about transformation and growth, maybe for their business, or their personal lives. And they're not following the same path that everyone else is. And then the dream connected with describing the community. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Pink Kangaroo. Podcast company is a tech company. And what better description than a kangaroo that you would associate with the wild that's pink? It's outside the box. It's different. Then when you think of the color pink, you normally wouldn't associate that with a wild animal. And so there's so many layers when you talk about like just the psychology of colors and what that means. But for me, it's, kangaroos, they leap forward, and they're nurturing. They provide this nurturing and warmth for their young, and they're powerful and they're strong. And there's so many other attributes to the kangaroo. And they're in this distant, depending on your perspective, this island. They're not everywhere in the world, so they're unique. There's a limited number of them. And so it was just a perfect blending. But what Pink Kangaroo is, it's a podcast network. We have a collection of shows that we produce in-house or we curate for the network. And it's about transformation, transforming in your life and your business. And we're growing our content around emerging technology, because technology is transformational as well.
Nice. That's interesting. Maybe someday you could ask Metaverse Simplified to do a podcast for you, and then.
Yes, all for it. And that's Pink Kangaroo with a U at the end, by the way, for those that want to look it up.
We'll
Sure.
put the link in the video.
Perfect.
Going back to NFTs, what are some of your favorite NFT use cases out there?
I would say the ones that I think Nike has done a fantastic job. There's also a designer called Roxana. It's a smaller label, and she created digital twins of her couture collection. And
Wow.
I feel that using NFTs to create access is also very powerful. And if you understand the psychology behind couture or fine art or antique cars or things that seem aspirational but not accessible to many people, there's a reason when you own something like that, that's such quality and such history and such storytelling, and it does something to you emotionally. It does something for your well-being. And when someone pours so much attention into something, you can feel that. You could see it when you're looking at a painting on the wall, when you're sitting down in front of a home cooked meal. There's something that does that. There's an effect that it has on you. And so when you're able to allow more people to experience that, even if it's in a digital form, I think that's great. And so I think that's one of my favorite use cases. And of course, you have bigger brands that have done some wonderful things around NFTs with exclusive digital collections, with very futuristic, mind-bending ways of showcasing art, that defy physics. That's all great. I love the idea around, there's an artist, his name is Taylor. Excuse me, I'm forgetting his last name, but he does art that it's around soup cans. And he takes the Campbell's soup, and he has this really unique pop art style. And he just introduces a new can each month to his community. And I love collecting things. And I think that if you're able to use NFTs in a way where you're truly adding value to a group of collectors, and understanding, again, like you think about collecting stamps or coins or Matchbox cards or baseball cards or, whatever it is. I love coins. I collect baseball cards. So those are two things I enjoy collecting. And so if you're now able to, if I was able to find a new coin a month, how happy would I be? And so again, looking at the digital aspect of that, and being provided a new form of art that makes me feel really good, each month from this artist that I believe in and follow is something very powerful. So the use cases don't have to be complex. I think those that are driving impact, I think are great. And then when we look at real estate, and of course, there are people getting married on the blockchain with an NFT. That's my verdict. That is still out. Uh, but hey, if you want to have your prenup as a smart contract, that's up to you. But I think real estate, because real estate's a hobby of mine, and I've bought and sold many homes, and so the process when it comes down to signing all the paperwork is arduous and not fun. So if you're able to ease the burden of a current situation, like truly, make something more efficient where you're saving time and energy for someone. And so if an NFT can do that beyond the art, beyond the community of artists that are putting things out there, or fashion brands that are putting things out there. But I like looking at use cases like real estate, because that is something. And if you're able to, again, bring access to kind of like what Airbnb has done with rentals and vacationers and homeowners, and they were able to connect them directly. And if NFTs can do that as it relates to homeowners being able to more easily sell their homes without the traditional means or without the headache of the paperwork, I think those use cases are also very powerful.
I think it's already happening in Netherlands. In some of its provinces, they are uh,
Mhm.
doing the sale of lands through NFT, and they are the first country which is, I think, encouraging this. So it's exciting to see how the real estate changes or transform through NFTs.
Yeah, and I think even looking at examples such as digital twins of certain real estate. So you design an NFT, you design a home, it's minted on the blockchain, and then maybe 3 years from now, you have the means to build that home. But that home
Print that
serves
home
as,
somehow.
what was that?
3D print that home somehow.
Right, right. And so I think that is also like the digital twin, category is also going to be something we're going to continue to see grow and give great use cases. But having the object be present in the digital prior to it being actualized in the physical, being able to sell a development through NFTs before it's built into a new town or neighborhood is something that we're going to continue to see as well.
So, I mean, thanks for answering that. I have my last question of the podcast. Um, how should an individual artist or a fashion designer or any individual person brand go about creating a community that they can then leverage? What's the best way to create a community as of today?
That's an excellent question. And I was faced with that last year, this time. I had my Raine Magazine community and I created an NFT collection. And I was like, oh, everyone should be able to buy this NFT. And there was so many barriers, as it related to the user interface, the technology, the understanding, the language that we were using. And excuse me, it was one of the things that fueled me to continue to speak and advise in the space and educate in the space. But it also forced me to understand the grassroots around building a community within a brand new environment. And it's the same with anything. It's providing value and doing something that you really believe in and being authentic to that. And so if you are a mason, right, something that's not so popular, and you're passionate about using bricks to build walls and fountains and homes and patios, and that's just your thing. Well, maybe you're educating me on the materials and the history of bricks and building and some ancient artifacts that were discovered with these unique materials or the value that these end products bring us in our lives. And so now you've built a community that's just educated and interested and curious. And so now when you are putting out this new product, hey, I have this item that I'm selling, or I have this new service I'm offering, you have an educated community that trusts you, that now wants to support you. At the end of the day, we all have the same needs, right? We're humans. And if we build that connection, and people want to buy from people, They don't want to just buy from a brand. They'll buy for necessity. They'll buy for price. But if you know a story about an individual, you're going to go out of your way to purchase that item because there's an emotional connection there.
Yeah.
And you know you're creating an impact, or you know the product that you are purchasing is going to create a positive impact for you. And so as an individual, if you're able to create information, visual content, or products that create positive impact, and you're able to communicate that in a unique way that is, again, going back to that word, authentic to you, people are able to see that and they appreciate that because there's less of that than everything else. And it doesn't matter if your community is 100 or 1,000,000. What matters is this a community that follows you, trusts you, that will purchase from you? Because what is the point of having 1,000,000 quote unquote followers and none of those individuals really care about what you have to say? They're just judging you all day. They'll never purchase anything from you. Like, what's the purpose? But if you have a loyal community of 100 and 99% are going to purchase an item from you that costs $100, just do the math. You could sustain yourself. And so I think it's looking at quality over quantity when you're looking at your community size. And what are you offering to them? Are you giving something of value? Is it something you're passionate about? Because that's going to come through. Does it tie back to the service or product offering? You know, there are individuals that I know, realtors, that do a lot of inspirational content. And I love inspirational content. And I try to do things that are inspirational as well. And so when you think of inspiration, someone makes you feel good. A realtor can make you feel good with a home. And so if you attach inspiration and feel good to this individual, then whatever they're going to deliver, you're going to assume it's also going to make you have that same emotional connection. And so it's also understanding what you're offering, the feeling you want to give, the value you want to leave with someone. When we look at our needs, we want to feel smarter. We want to feel stronger. We want to feel more beautiful. We want to feel, I don't know, there's all these attributes. So if you can go down the attributes from a psychological standpoint, say, well, what are you checking off? Is the content making someone feel more empowered, stronger, more beautiful, whatever it is, and continue to deliver that because your community is going to tell you what they want.
Wow. Thanks for answering that. And I think with this, we've almost come to an end. So thank you, Supernova. It was
Thank you so much.
amazing.
I think we crossed the time. It's been more than 10 minutes, but the conversation was so interesting. We kept on going, and thank you so much, Nova, for doing this. And I think our viewers are definitely going to be inspired by your story. And yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate you both. Thank you so much. And you said we want to have fun. I had fun. I could keep going if we needed to.
Maybe we'll have one more episode later someday, but thank you so much. Yeah.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Loved it. Frankly, loved talking to you.
Yeah, I really had a good time. And I love these topics, and your questions were really, really great. So thank you for having me as well.
Yeah. Have a great day ahead, Nova.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.